I was drifting away on life's pitiless sea, when the angry waves threatened my ruin to be. When away at my side there I dimly descried a stately old vessel, and loudly I cried, "Ship ahoy! Ship ahoy!" And loudly I cried, "Ship ahoy!"
Well, once again, we say welcome aboard. It's good to be with you at this time. Brother Mund speaking. A program here called The Mariner's Call. Oh, our opportunity, and my privilege to be with you by means of radio. Whenever you're listening, morning, noon, or night, thank you so much for being there. In the book of Proverbs, Proverbs chapter 30, we'll find our thought at this particular time from verse 25. Proverbs chapter 30 and verse 25. How in the world are you? You know, some of our stations literally are on the other side of the world when you consider the little place that I live here. I live in the little community of Bon Secour, which is a little community, the southern part of the state of Alabama, right here on Alabama's Gulf Coast. So, wherever you're listening, God bless you. If whoever can help you, hey, if you hear something, perhaps, and I hope it's something you like, but if you hear something maybe you don't quite understand, you can contact us. We're as close as the old keyboard as far as the computer is concerned, or the iPad. We think about the iPhone. FOMM. We're part of the World Wide Web. That's just FOMM.org. FOMM.org. That'll bring you directly to us here at Fishers of Men Ministries International. If we can help you, please feel free to not only just look at some things as far as our website is concerned, but also leave us a message. Proverbs chapter 30, all the way down to verse 25. You know, it seems as if, and Solomon does this, he's done this a number of times throughout the book of Proverbs. He'll take the characteristics of one of God's little creatures. He'll take the characteristics of God's creation and use them to sort of get a truth or a principle home to mankind to help him to shape up, so to speak. Well, let me read you what I'm talking about. It says the ants are a people not strong, yet they prepare their meat in the summer. In Proverbs chapter 6, he says, "Go to the ant, thou sluggard, consider her ways and be wise." Something about that little ant, industrious. Oh, I think about the word lazy. If I had that tendency, I'd put my head to the ground and look at the little ant and all just as busy as they could be. He also talks about, verse 26, the conies are but a feeble folk. It says, yet they make their houses in the rocks. They know what it is to be protected, fortification. It says the locusts in verse 27, the locusts have no king, yet they go forth all of them by bands. They know the benefit of numbers. The spider taketh hold with her hands. It is in king's palaces. The spider, scary looking thing. Yet she gets into the king's palace. The ant, the coney, the locust, the spider, and all of God's creatures. I guess there's something about each one that could help us, both positive, negative, maybe a good thing, a bad thing about them that might help us to, well, as I said before, kind of shape up. Might help us as believers to grow in grace and knowledge. Might even rebuke us. Some that even would deny the fact that there is a creator. What I want to do, I want to take you down to the sea. I want to go down to the water. I want to stick your head under the water and have you look around some of the little sea creatures. And let's pull out of the water one that might help us to understand maybe how I ought to live. Let's pull up a crab. Go to the crab. Consider her ways and be wise. A crab, do you know what a crab is? You know, a crustacean, 5 pairs of legs, 1 pair of pinchers. They're in the water and on the land. In fact, I've met a lot of land crabs. Have you ever heard the expression, he's an old crab? Have you ever heard the expression, they're acting rather crabby, you know? Hey, go to the crab. What about a crab? Let's see if we can just throw out some things about a crab that I've found out that I know. I have basically down at the end of the church's pier, off the end of the dock, I have what's called a crab trap. In fact, I have a number of them. As far as this crab trap is concerned, it's designed to be able to trap the crab. Now, that is, I know that's deep for you to understand. And Brother Mund is trying to be funny. And I love eating. In our area, we have a blue crab. I save only the big, huge blue crabs to eat. And it's something about that crab. Let me sort of throw out a few things and see if we can use the scripture to see whether this may help me or not. As far as the crab is concerned, first, as far as his walk is concerned, his walk is crooked. And if you notice him, he goes sideways. You go to the port, the starboard, right or left, front, back. He goes all kinds of different directions as far as his walk is concerned. Now, let's just immediately make some parallels. I wonder if you are a crab in your walk. You said, what do you mean, Brother Mund? Crooked? 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 talks about how that you ought to walk, how you walk and please God. It's important that you walk straight. Isn't it something that Satan has called, Isaiah 27 is called the crooked serpent? Isaiah chapter 59, it talks about the wicked, how that they make themselves crooked paths. I need to walk right because sometimes Christianity is judged by those who profess Christianity, but they're crooked as far as their walk is concerned. Only God can make the crooked straight. There was a time in my life, I'll be honest with you, I walked like an old crab. I walked crooked. I'm ashamed of that. I'm glad that only God can make the crooked straight. Crab, what about him? They're sneaky and they're snappy, As far as a crab is concerned, pull him up out of the water. And boy, I tell you, if he's fresh, and as far as his manner of life is concerned, he is, how would I put this? He is, they're very crabby to the extent that they'll bite you. Very snappy, I have been, because of the fact that many, many years ago as a commercial fisherman, as far as the harvest, sometimes we pulled up from the floor of the ocean 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tons of, we think about how am I to put this? I've talked about the food out of the ocean being the food of heaven, dumped on the deck of a shrimp trawler. And I tell you, just hundreds and thousands of little creatures crawling everywhere, but you always could find the crab. As far as the crab is concerned, if you wasn't careful, it bites you. I've pulled them out of the crab traps here and wasn't watching what I was doing. And all of a sudden I put my hand where I should not have put it, just a little too close. And all of a sudden there was a snap. And I tell you, I found my fingers or part of my hand in the jaws of a crab as far as his pincher is concerned, just snappy. And they're sneaky in doing that. Now, what about my life? I don't want to be sneaky. What's our Bible word? Deceitful, Deceitful. That's what the old heart is. Without God's help, the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. The wicked worketh a deceitful work. We think about wicked people. A deceitful witness speaketh lies, People just sneaky and just you see this in the business world and the religious world and crookedness, and people just, not only just sneaky, but have you ever just sat down and tried to have a conversation with someone and maybe you asked them something and boy, they just snapped back, We talk about husband-wife relationship is quite like that. Sometimes I could say something and Mrs. Mund would snap back. And I said, don't be like an old crab, And she said, you're the old crab. I said, yes, ma'am. That I am, Colossians chapter 3, As far as anger is concerned, that needs to be put off. Put off these. One of them is anger, Colossians chapter 3 and verse 18. I need to watch. If I fly in a rage, probably have a bad landing, I don't want to be an old crab when it comes to my temperament. I don't want to be an old crab when it comes to, the way I live. Crabs are scavengers. An animal that eats scavengers, an animal eats decaying organic matter. A vulture, a condor, a buzzard. What they are to the land, the crab is to the sea. Crab will eat anything, and it can even be rotted, and he'll eat it, You say, what are you talking about? I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be sneaky and snappy and crooked, and I don't want to be that scavenger, I don't want to be how do I put this? I don't want to be crabby in my appetite. Thinking about the Christian in the book of Ephesians chapter 5, it talks about clean living there. And let me just propose some thoughts here, thinking about alcohol and tobacco and drugs, immorality, the world's music, the love of money, the love of self. What is that? Crab bait. I'm telling you, the devil will use that to catch you, I don't want to have that kind of appetite. And only Jesus can change us. Change you from a crab, being crabby, to where you could be as meek as a lamb. Amen. Not only that, but we think about a crab, I think of strife. And let me close with this. Am I talking to an old crab? Go to the crab, consider her ways, strife. If you take two crabs, you just pull them out of the water and put them together. Put them in a basket, put them in a box, put them together. You know what they'll do? They'll fight. They'll fight one another. And just quarrel, strife, quarreling, struggling, and selfish, sordid. Some folks live their entire life like that. Their entire life is just an argument. You ever seen people like that? Colossians chapter 3, verse 13 says, if any man have a quarrel against any, what do? My friend, you got to stop that. Their entire life is like two crabs that are fighting one another. Go to the crab. Consider her ways. It is something that God can take, the little creatures, and we use a crab because he's part of God's creation. Now, we're not talking about evolution. We're talking about God created this particular little animal that's there. And there's something about that, that little creature that might help me, that I might straighten up and live right. And if I'm a Christian, to grow in grace. And my friend, if I'm acting like that, it's almost like devilish. The old crab, sneaky and snappy, and he's a scavenger and full of strife, and he's crooked. Isn't it something that Satan is described as being the crooked? He's called a crooked serpent. Am I talking to Mr. and Mrs. Crab today? Maybe some young crabs. A Christian's walk can change. All that happens when the grace of God comes our way. It's so good to be a Christian. Am I talking to Mr. and Mrs. Crab? Now, until next week, the same time, this is Fisher Mund saying goodbye.